those awkward things where I don't know if I'm live or not for a few seconds. Oh. Oh, it says happening now. And that's my face. I'm not sure why it's doing captions again, but it is. And am I on YouTube too? Oh, what the question is, what has it called itself? It says Sharing Sunday, so it hasn't. Maybe yesterday I just typed the wrong thing out of memory. Who knows? Hey, alright. Alright. Get my little pop-up chat thing so I can see everyone's comments at once. Hey, George. Glad you are here. Nice to see you. Nice. Just want to check. Sometimes I don't get the first few comments in the time it takes my little chat thing to pop up. So we've got a deal. We've got Katie. Excellent. Hey, oh, they can hear me twice though. There we go. We're in. We're sorted. Look at that. 301. And it's all gone. YouTube's going. Facebook's going. No stress. I'm still so excited by this new thing. Makes my life so much easier. In fact, I was up here getting things ready so much earlier than I needed to be, turns out, because I was like, oh. So James watched Norwich versus Southampton and Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace when the Premier League came back on. Don't know what most of that meant. Sounds good though, James. With the, what is it like now with football with no crowds? Is it weird? Is it still as good? I'd be very curious to know. So I want to know if they're going to finish off the Six Nations or not. How is it too hot? Oh, Newcastle versus Sheffield United player. There seems to be so much football at the moment. But maybe it's because we've gone from zero football to some football. It just seems like there's a lot of it. Oh, I don't know. But it looks like the sun's coming back, guys. The weather forecast, I believe, for the rest of the week is looking pretty good. Today seems to be the beginning of it. It was a little bit cloudy earlier, but nothing too bad. But looks like it's getting warm. Get up. Just want to quickly make a quick introduction. We've got a new friend on the sofa. Our neighbour brought this over for Ira to play with, and Ira is actually terrified of it because it can do this. It can move around. Whoa! And I've never seen her jump the way she did. And then Chelsea versus Aston Villa, and Everton versus Liverpool. Goodness me, there's so much football. Where's that Six Nations, guys? Where is that Six Nations? That's all I want to know. I mean, Wales can't win, so maybe it's good it just doesn't end, so it's null and void, so it doesn't count as Wales losing. Because I don't think they'll get their wooden spoon, but you never know. Who knows? Right, well, 30 degrees. Whoo! It's too hot, that's going to be. 30 degrees? That is madness. 30? Oh, gross. I can't remember ever making it to 30 in England. Hottest I've ever experienced was 40 degrees, which was in America. And I think that was like because it was in Fahrenheit. I think I did the maths right. Yeah, Thursday, 31 degrees. I might cease to exist. I might just evaporate in that temperature. 31 degrees on Thursday. Madness. Hi, Rose. Tomorrow's Manchester City versus Burnley. There's just so much football at the moment. Whew. Wish it was something I understood. Cricket weather. That's right, George. We are very sporty today. I know lots of people took part in the Keen Olympics, which was possibly yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe I used to have one of those toys for Scruffy, so she used to play with it. Whereas Ira, no, too scared of it. Doesn't like it at all. Yeah, I don't have too many pictures to share with you today. Maybe because people have been busy doing Keen Olympics stuff and whatnot. Though I do have a picture of someone from the Keen Olympics, so we shall see. Shall we get on to our pictures then? Oh, let's do it! Hey, look who it is. It's Mr. Ryan Edgington. Let's see, can we get a bit closer? There he is. So on Wednesday, I asked y'all to make some muffins, and here are Ryan's muffins. They look so good. I really actually genuinely want to reach into the screen and try and eat one. They look that good. Well done, Ryan. Always does our baking, Ryan does, and he always does such a fantastic job when he does it. So, always a pleasure to see. Now, no, this was on Thursday. On Thursday, we were making some bubble snakes. I asked, and you all made. I was about to say, and I received, but I don't know what's going on. I feel like I've got a little bit mad. I don't know what's happening. Sheffield United just got a red card, but there's no one there to even boo them. It must just be like a weird, awkward silence. Someone just stropping off the field, like... Anyway, so yeah. Alex sent me a small kind of video of him making his bubble sock, but it just won't seem to work. So I just had to take a little screenshot of it from my phone instead. So here's Alex's bubble sock. He used a cool stripy sock to make his bubble sock. Up next, we can see Lucy's bubble sock. Really cool. And looks like she got a really long bubble snake going there. I'm curious to who made the longest one and how long it was. And here is Sophia's bubble sock. Now we can't see how big her bubbles went, but I love it. It looks really cool. Nice big bottle as well. I like the colour of the bubble solution too. The green from the fairy liquid looks really cool. The other thing I asked you on Wednesday, I've done these slightly in the wrong order, was to make some calming jars. And again, I've got one from Sophia. And she put it underneath a light to make it look extra cool. She put a torch next to hers. I hope people made these and found them rather soothing. I've got one, not a homemade one, like a kind of bought one, which I did buy to use at Yellow Submarine, but then I've just tended to use it myself. I find they're very effective. So if you haven't made one yet, maybe you didn't have the glycerin, I think you can use fairy liquid instead, but it's not as slow moving. So it moves quite quickly. I know glycerin is maybe something that's a bit trickier to get your hands on. Now, I already mentioned the Keen Olympics, and I've got some photos from some people. So this is Alex's certificate and medal. that he won at the Keen Olympics. Again, I think it was yesterday, but I'm not 100%. And I believe it was a virtual Olympics. And not only that, we can actually see Alex partaking in one of the activities. I think it might be long jump. It was some kind of jump. Let's have a look, shall we? If I can remember which one is the right video. Nope, that's not the right video. That's the right video. And I forgot that video was in slow motion as well. How cool was that? So well done, Alex. Really nice going. Nice going. Oh, it's not quite in the middle. There we go, that's better. Right, where are we? Ooh. Who have we got next? The one and only Mr. George Hiley, who has been doing some gardening this week. In his cool Owls t-shirt that we saw yesterday. Now, I'm wondering if people know what kind of plant it is, because he's been harvesting some of the stuff he's been growing. It's something you can eat. It's delicious, but you wouldn't want a lot of it, because it might make your breath a bit smelly. Also, if you're a vampire, you may not like it either. Particularly good combined with bread. I wonder if anyone can guess what it is that George has been growing and harvesting. Any ideas, anyone? Spring onion! Not quite. Good guess, though. Starts with a g. It's really hard. I really want to say the name of it when it's garlic. That's right, Rose. Garlic bread. Garlic. That's right. Well done. And you can, if you look really closely at the bottom, maybe I could zoom in on it. You see the kind of bulb there. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's a very important day today. Day, words. Does anyone know what day it is today? It's Sunday, but it's a special day. I'm wondering if people know what day it is today. Some of you may have made some things for a particular person. Some of you might live with this person, some of you might not. Today is Father's Day, and James has made this absolute beast of a chocolate cake. Look at that. You know, like I said in the muffins, I want to just put my hand in the screen and just take it out and eat it. Oh, same about this chocolate cake. Look how chocolatey that is. Whoo! So well done to James for making that cake. And I've also got somewhere, Sophia made this cake for her dad as well. Really nice. And there's some of you might not. Some of you might recognise Claudia, who's worked at some of our Yellow Submarine sessions in that picture. Because she is Sophia's sister. Up next, we're going to get to see someone we've talked about a lot on this stream. And I don't know if we've actually ever seen her before. But we are going to see Katie's cat Scruffy on top of her table in the kitchen. I've been meaning to get something like that for Ira. I think she'd quite like it. Because whenever we have a soft blanket, she likes to sit on it. So I wonder if she'd like something like that. She sometimes goes in our cupboard as well and just kind of hides in little holes. So something like that might be nice for her. But yeah, there's Scruffy. We can finally see her. And that's not all. We're also going to see Freddy on Katie's boat. And I love the little life jacket. I didn't know you could get little dog life jackets. How amazing is that? Oh, I wonder if we can get cat ones. Oh, we could never get her into it. And our boat's a lot smaller than your boat. Because it's an inflatable canoe. Up next, we're going to see some of our favourite colouring, and that is the colouring of Mr. Lloyd Barrett. Now, earlier in the week, or did I show this last week? Okay, at some point, I might have showed you that last. Oh, never mind. Just ignore me. So once again, Lloyd has used fantastic colours, as he always does. I think that's very much a skill of Lloyd's, is choosing a real good mixture of different colours and using them in great ways. And no picture shows that better than this one. Quite possibly my favourite colouring you've done yet, Lloyd. I love it. So bright, so many different colours, and you've really made some nice patterns there too. Also, he's coloured in what I think is Loch Ness having a fight with a shark. Maybe they're both just dinosaurs. I don't know. I'm really not sure. But again, really nice colours. Sometimes what Lloyd will do is use lots of colours, and that looks great. But sometimes he only uses like 2 or 3 or 4, and that looks really cool as well. So I really enjoy that about Lloyd's colouring. Now, we already mentioned the Keen Olympics. Rose also took part in the Keen Olympics. Here she is having a go at some ball games. And I believe she had a great time. She also has done Keen art sessions online. This is some of the art she made. Lovely. I love the rainbow that this this thing's wearing. And here's another thing that Rose made. Wow, look at that. Lovely. I love the little green dots you've done there, Rose. Looks really cool. Nice job. And lastly, from Rose, is, well, something we're definitely all going to have to look out for, because I'm thinking might be a great Wellbeing Wednesday activity. Rose did some chocolate eating mindfulness. I'm really curious as to what that is, so I'm going to have a good look for that. And maybe we'll do it one of our Wellbeing Wednesdays. Or if Rose wanted to make a video to show us how to do it, we could share that on a Wellbeing Wednesday. So if that's something you'd like to do, Rose, we'd love to see it. But don't worry if you don't want to. And we have only one photo left. What's going on? Oh, and one more video as well. Sorry, I forgot one of Alex's videos. It's because we haven't got to music yet. So we'll see that shortly. Here we go. Here is Ryan. And Ryan's been doing some gardening. I don't know what he's planted. Oh, is he doing? And maybe I see red paint. Maybe he's painting the plant pot. Either way, it looks super cool. Yeah, Rose will make us a chocolate eating mindfulness video. Yes, that's so exciting. I cannot wait to see that. I cannot wait. Monday, we did some music making. Part of that activity, you could, if you wanted to, was make a shaker. And Alex made a shaker, and he painted it. And we got a little video of him all sped up. It's been sped up. So you can see him do the whole thing really quickly of him painting his shaker. There it is. And I've just realised, I'm sure I had a video of George doing some music. Oh, good timing, Alex. Just in time for one of your videos. How is that? How have I missed that? Hang on. Let's see. I might be able to get this really quickly, so if I can. If I can remember what the date was on Monday. Video of George music, yes! Hang on. I'm coming to get you. It's going to go black for a second, so don't be scared. All right. Hope that was exciting to see me put that on. Let's have a go and have a look at it properly with some sound. Here it comes. There we go. Nice shaker, George. Lovely shaker, Alex. Hello, Lloyd. You just missed all your colouring, Lloyd, but you'll be able to watch it back afterwards. That's all I got to share. It's been a bit of a quiet week. And it was last week, too. It's probably because everyone's just been watching football the whole time, isn't it? So it's got anything to share this week. Yeah, it's all good. Guys, so today is day 91. Day 91 of the Yellow Submarine in your house activities. That means in 9 days, it's going to be day 100. Who got photo of the week? Ooh, I think this week's photo of the week, just because we've heard... No. Oh, I can't choose. I think this week's photo of the week will be this photo here, because these muffins look so tasty that I can't ignore them. I'm slightly salivating just looking at them. So well done, Ryan. Photo of the week for Ryan. So what was I saying? Oh yes, day 100 in 9 days. So it's the day 30th of June. 30th of June, I think. So it's the day before Flying Fox. What are we going today on day 100? That's what I want to ask you all. What should we do? I need some ideas. I've got one idea, but I'm not sure about it. So you all might have some better ideas. I don't want to say it yet because I don't want to spoil it. Because you might think of something much better than me. But I'd love to hear what ideas you have. So if you do have any ideas, put them in the comments or email me. As long as I know before, I'm hoping I have an idea on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, what it's going to be so I can prepare for it. So I've got 7 days to get ready for it. I don't think it will be the final day for it, no. Nah, it won't be. Because day 100, day after that, day 101, that's Flying Fox Day. We're also going to be doing in that week some carnival activities. We've got an artist who's going to come and do some work, ready for some artwork with us via Zoom, I think. Though I haven't spoken to her yet, so I haven't figured out how that's going to look. Making stuff for Carnival, because County Road Carnival is going to be online this this year for obvious reasons. So we'll definitely have stuff going on that week. Like you say, it all depends what the government says. But yeah, the day 100, want to do something to celebrate you guys for coping with this all so well, for being so strong throughout the entire thing. For as much as I've seen, you've all been really brave, and I think that's something that's worth celebrating. So I'd be curious as to what you think, what you'd like to do. So if you remember on day 50, we had a camp out, or a camp in, sorry, it was a camp in, not a camp out, and a talent show, and that was pretty fun. And all Katie's can think of as a theme for a future disco. And I've got the next couple of weeks already in my head. Well, because we have certain things going on. Hi, Miles! So, because we're going to be doing something with Flying Fox the week after our next disco, so this Saturday's disco is going to be around the world themed. I was thinking Australia themed, but I guess we could do Kylie Minogue. It might be Australia themed, but there's the only Australian songs I could think of were not something we can listen to anymore. Miles has got a week off work. Awesome. So yeah, any ideas, just let me know. Nothing too big. It might just be an activity you want to try that we haven't done. Like Lloyd keeps asking if we can do apple bobbing, so I was thinking, ooh, maybe that's something we can save for day 100. So any activities you think you'd like to do, let me know. Are we ready for story time? We need to decide on a new book. Should do a quiz of capital cities across Europe or the world. Well, Miles, if you want to come up with that quiz round, you're more than welcome to. But we need to choose a new book. I've got a few here. I've got a few. Now. Seems like everyone's watching on Facebook at the moment. Cool. All right. I'm going to get Instagram up. Hey, Instagram! It's story time. Oh, now we have a bit of a delay, so that will make things a little bit more difficult. But hopefully, I can get that to work out. Okay, so our choices for books today. We have this. This is George's Marvelous Medicine. I'm going to read the back. It's by Roald Dahl. Pretty much everything apart from Boy in the Dress we've read so far has been Roald Dahl. So seems like another Roald Dahl book might be a good way to go. So I'll just quickly read the back for you. I'm going to go tell you all the different books, and then you can vote on which book you'd like. So, most grandmas are kind and helpful ladies. Not George's grandma. She's a grumpy and grisly old grouch. And George wants to teach her a lesson. So when it's time for her medicine, George concocts a bubbling, frothing, marvellous mixture, which is guaranteed to send her through the roof. I haven't read this one since I was a child, so I don't actually remember much about this book. Up next, now we've got 2 Moomin books. One's a picture book, so it's very short, so that'll be one reading. We'll finish this one today. And it's called Moomin and the Birthday Button. And on the back it says, if you haven't met a Moomin yet, you're missing the most magical fun. Pee-hoo, it's my birthday. Moomin Troll wakes up full of excitement. It will surely be the most wonderful day, but when his friends seem to have forgotten about his birthday, it doesn't feel wonderful at all. Poor Moomin Troll. Whatever will happen next? Now we got another picture book. Now this picture book is called Love You Forever. And it is possibly one of the most mad books I have read in my entire life. There is something quite... well, I don't know how to describe it about this book. It's a little bit creepy, but not intentionally. It's supposed to be nice. But oh, there's some kind of weird undercurrent going on in it. But I'll read you the back. A young woman holds her newborn son and looks at him lovingly. Softly she sings to him, I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. This is the story of how that little boy goes through the stages of childhood and becomes a man. It is also about the enduring nature of parents' love and how it crosses generations. Love You Forever is a book that both children and adults will enjoy over and over again. And then we've got another Moomin book, but this one's not a picture book, it's just a regular book. And it's called The Invisible Child. In Tove Jansson's much-loved short story, The Invisible Child, the isolated ninny, is that me, is helped to regain her voice and take her rightful place in the world using a simple Moomin recipe. She is welcomed into the Moomin family and treated with equality and respect. This is one of the most touching of all Moomin stories and is paired in this unique book with The Fir Tree, the Moomin's gloriously unselfish take on Christmas. Okay, so now what's going to happen is I'm going to hold up a book, and if this is the book you would like to hear, you will press one of the emojis. It can be the thumbs up, it can be the heart, it could be the laughy face, it could even be the sad face. It's a sad face. But what you have to do is press that. If you're on Instagram, you can just press the like button. Hello, Luke. So, without further ado, Hello, Azim. Book to choose number 1 is Lloyd, you're pressing like too early. I don't know which book yet. Is Roald Dahl's George's Marvelous Medicine. If you'd like to hear this book, press the like button now. The next one is Moomin and the birthday button. Oh, Lloyd is very keen for what you call it, the George Marvelous Medicine. If you like the Moomins, which is Moomin and the birthday button, press that like button now. If you want this absolute wild ride of a book, love you forever, press the like button now. Or if you would like this Moomin book, the non-picture book, The Invisible Child, press the like button now. Seems like at the moment, I haven't seen the votes for The Invisible Child come through yet. It looks like it's going to be George's Marvelous Medicine. I'm not surprised, to be honest. I think we usually have a roll dial, isn't it? It's kind of what we do. Just seeing. Looks like roll dial's the winner. George's Marvelous Medicine it is. This is one of the shorter ones. So I wonder how much I can read today. Well, it hasn't got page numbers on. Oh. It's just over 100. So probably read about a third of it today, I reckon. Now, I think this is one of his first books. First children's books. Possibly. I can't remember. No, I can't remember. Okay. Are we ready? Now it starts off with a warning. It says, warning to readers. Do not try to make George's Marvelous Medicine yourselves at home. It could be dangerous. Chapter 1. Grandma. Sure, she'll be a lovely lady. She's a grandma. All our grandmas are lovely, right? Let's see, shall we? I'm going to shopping in the village, George's mother said to George on Saturday morning. So be a good boy and don't get up to mischief. This was a silly thing to say to a small boy at any time. It immediately made him wonder what sort of mischief he might get up to. And don't forget to give Grandma her medicine at 11 o'clock, the mother said. Then out she went, closing the back door behind her. Grandma, who was dozing in her chair by the window, hey, like I am, opened one wicked little eye. And said, Now you heard what your mother said, George. Don't forget my medicine. No, Grandma, George said. I'm just trying to behave yourself for once while she's away. Yes, Grandma, George said. George was bored to tears. He didn't have a brother or a sister. His father was a farmer, and the farm they lived on was miles away from anywhere, so there were never any children to play with. He was tired of staring at pigs and hens and cows and sheep. He was especially tired of having to live in the same house as that grisly old grunion of a grandma. Looking after her all by himself was hardly the most exciting way to spend a Saturday morning. I don't like the sounds of this George guy. You can make me a nice cup of tea for a start, Grandma said to George. That'll keep you out of mischief for a few minutes. Yes, Grandma, George said. George couldn't help disliking Grandma. She was a selfish, grumpy old woman. She had pale brown teeth and small puckered-up mouth like a dog's bottom. How much sugar in your tea today, Grandma? George asked her. 1 spoon, she said, and no milk. Most grandmothers are lovely, kind, helpful old ladies, but not this one. She spent all day and every day sitting in her chair by the window, and she always was complaining, grousing, grouching, grumbling, griping about something or other. Never once, even on her best days, had she smiled at George and said, "Well, how are you this morning, George?" Or, "Why don't you and I have a game of snake and ladders?" Or, "How was school today?" She didn't seem to care about other people, only about herself. She was a miserable old grouch. George went into the kitchen and made Grandma a cup of tea with a tea bag. He put 1 spoon of sugar in it and no milk. He stirred the sugar well and carried the cup into the living room. Grandma sipped the tea. "It's not sweet enough," she said. "Put more sugar in it." George took the cup back to the kitchen and added another spoonful of sugar. He stirred it again, and he carried it carefully in to Grandma. "Where's the saucer?" she said. "I won't have a cup without a saucer." My voice has changed already. George fetched her a saucer. And here's a picture. A picture. "And what about a teaspoon, if you please?" "I've stirred it for you, Grandma. I stirred it well." "I'll stir my own tea, thank you very much," she said. "Fetch me a teaspoon." George fetched her a teaspoon. When George's mother or father were home, Grandma never ordered George about like this. It was only when she had him on her own that she began treating him badly. "You know what's the matter with you?" the old woman said, staring at George over the rim of the teacup with those bright, wicked little eyes. "You're growing too fast. Boys who grow too fast become stupid and lazy." I grew really fast. Oh. "But I can't help it if I'm growing fast, Grandma," George said. "Of course you can," she snapped. "Growing's a nasty, childish habit." "But we have to grow, Grandma. If we didn't grow, we'd never be grown-ups." "Rubbish, boy, rubbish," she said. "Look at me. Am I growing?" "Certainly not." "But you did once, Grandma." "Only a very little," the old woman answered. "I gave up growing when I was extremely small, along with all the other nasty childish habits like laziness and disobedience and greed and sloppiness and untidiness and stupidity. You haven't given up on any of these things, have you?" "I'm still only a little boy, Grandma." "You're 8 years old," she snorted. "That's all enough to know better. If you don't stop growing soon, it'll be too late." Ryan got photo of the week for his muffins. Uh, Too late for what, Grandma? It's ridiculous, she went on. You're nearly as tall as me already. George took a good look at Grandma. She certainly was a very tiny person. Her legs were so short she had to have a footstool to put her feet on, and her head only came halfway up the back of the armchair. Daddy says it's fine for a man to be tall, George said. Don't listen to your daddy, Grandma said. Listen to me! But how do I stop myself from growing? George asked her. Eat less chocolate, Grandma said. Won't be able to stay mindful if he does that. Does chocolate make you grow? It makes you grow the wrong way, she snapped. Up instead of down. Grandma sipped some tea, but never took her eyes from the little boy who stood before her. Never grow up, she said. Always down. Yes, Grandma. And stop eating chocolate. Eat cabbage instead. Cabbage? Oh, no, I don't like cabbage, George said. It's not what you like or what you don't like, Grandma snapped. It's what's good for you that counts. From now on, you must eat cabbage 3 times a day. Mountains of cabbage. And if it's got caterpillars in it, so much better. Ouch, George said. Caterpillar gives you brains, the old woman said. Mummy washes them down the sink, George said. There's a picture. George being told. Oh, there's 2 photos. Pictures. There's 2 pictures. There's another one. Hey, deal. What's your language, sir? Yes. Deal. What's your filthy language, please? I had to delete that comment. Oh, I've lost where I was now. Mummy's as stupid as you are, Grandma said. Cabbage doesn't taste of anything without a few boiled caterpillars in it. Slugs too. Not slugs, George cried out. I couldn't eat slugs. Whenever I see a live slug on a piece of lettuce, Grandma said, I gobble it up quick before it crawls away. Delicious. She squeezed her top lips together so tight that her mouth became a tiny wrinkled hole. Delicious, she said again. Worms and slugs and beetly bugs. You don't know what's good for you. You're joking, Grandma. I never joke. Beetles are perhaps best of all. They go crunch. Grandma, that's beastly. The old hag grinned, showing those pale brown teeth. Sometimes, if you're lucky, she said, you get a beetle inside the stem of a stick of celery. That's what I like. Grandma, how could you? Thank you, Adele. It's all right. I know it happens. You find all sorts of nice things in sticks of raw celery, the old woman went on. Sometimes it's earwigs. I don't want to hear about it, cried George. Big fat earwig is very tasty, Grandma said, licking her lips. But you've got to be very quick, my dear. When you put one of those in your mouth, it has a sharp pair of nippers on its back end, and if it grabs your tongue with those, it never lets go. So you've got to bite the earwig first. Chop, chop, before it bites you. George started edging towards the door. Rightly so. He wanted to get as far away as possible from this filthy old woman. You're trying to get away from me, aren't you? She said, pointing a finger straight at George's face. You're trying to get away from Grandma. Little George stood by the door staring at the old hag in the chair. She stared back at him. Could it be, George wondered, that she was a witch? He had always thought witches were only in fairy tales, but now he could not be so sure. Come closer to me, little boy, she said, beckoning him to him with a horny finger. Come closer to me, and I will tell you secrets. George didn't move. Grandma didn't move either. I know many great secrets, she said, and suddenly she smiled. It was a thin, icy smile, the kind a snake might make just before it bites you. Come over here to Grandma, and she'll whisper secrets to you. George took a step backwards, edging closer to the door. You mustn't be frightened of your old Grandma, she said, smiling that icy smile. George took another step backwards. Some of us, she said, and all at once she was leaning forward in her chair and whispering in a throaty sort of voice George had never heard her use before. Some of us, she said, have magic powers that can twist the creatures of this earth into wondrous shapes. A tingle of electricity flashed down the length of George's spine. He began to feel frightened. Some of us, the old woman went on, have fire on our tongues and sparks in our bellies and wizardry in the tips of our fingers. Some of us know secrets will make your hair stand up on end and your eyes pop out of their sockets. George wanted to run away, but his feet seemed stuck to the floor. We know how to make your nails drop off and teeth grow out of your fingers instead. George began to tremble. It was her face that frightened him most, the frosty smile, the brilliant, unblinking eyes. We know how to wake you up in the morning with a long tail coming out from behind you. Grandma, he cried, stop! We know secrets, my dear, about dark places where dark things live and squirm and slither all over each other. George made a dive for the door. Doesn't matter how far you run, he heard her saying. You won't ever get away. George ran into the kitchen, slamming the door behind him. Chapter 2. The Marvellous Plan. George sat himself down at the table in the kitchen. He was shaking a little. Oh, how he hated Grandma. He really hated that horrid old witchy woman. And all of a sudden, he had a tremendous urge to do something about her. Something whopping. Something absolutely terrific. A real shocker. A sort of explosion. He wanted to blow away the witchy smell that hung about her in the next room. He may have been only 8 years old, but he was a brave little boy. He was ready to take this old woman on. I'm not going to be frightened by her, he said softly to himself, but he was frightened. And that's why he wanted to suddenly explode her well, not quite away, but he did want to shake the old woman up a bit. Very well then. What should it be, this whopping, terrific, exploding shocker for Grandma? He would have liked to put a firework banger up her chair, but he didn't have one. He would like to have put a long green snake down the back of her dress, but he didn't have a long green snake. Here's George thinking of different ideas. He would have liked to put 6 big black rats in the room with her and lock the door, but he didn't have 6 big black rats. As George sat there pondering this interesting problem, his eye fell upon the bottle of Grandma's brown medicine standing on the sideboard. Rotten stuff it seemed to be. 4 times a day, a large spoonful of it was shovelled into her mouth, and it didn't do her the slightest bit of good. She was always just as horrid after she'd had it as she'd had been before. The whole point of medicine, surely, was to make a person better. If it didn't do that, then it was quite useless. So ho! thought George suddenly. Aha! Ho hum! I know exactly what I'll do. I'll make her a new medicine. One that is so strong and so fierce and so fantastic it will either cure her completely or blow off the top of her head. I'll make her a magic medicine, a medicine no doctor in the world has ever made before. George looked at the kitchen clock. It said 10:05. There was nearly an hour left before Grandma's next dose was due at 11. Here we go then, cried George, jumping up from the table. A magic medicine it shall be! Here's George, looking excited at his idea. And here we go. So give me a bug and a jumping flea, give me 2 snails and lizards 3, and a slimy squiggler from the sea, and the poisonous sting of a bumblebee, and the juice from the fruit of the jujube tree, and the wonderful powdered bone of a wombat's knee, and 100 other things as well, each with a rather nasty smell. I'll stir them up, I'll boil them long, a mixture tough, a mixture strong. And then, hey-ho, and down it goes, a nice big spoonful, hold your nose. Just gulp it down and have no fear. How do you like it, Granny dear? Will she go pop? Will she explode? Will she go flying down the road? Will she go poof in a puff of smoke? Start fizzing like a can of Coke? Who knows? Not I. Let's wait and see. I'm glad it's neither you or me. Oh, Grandma, if only you knew what I have got in store for you. Chapter 3. George begins to make the medicine. George took an enormous saucepan out of the cupboard and placed it on the kitchen table. George! Came a shrill voice from the next room. What are you doing? Nothing, Grandma, he called out. You needn't think I can't hear you just because you closed the door. You're rattling the saucepans. I'm just tidying the kitchen, Grandma. Then there was silence. George had absolutely no doubts whatsoever about how he was going to make his famous medicine. He wasn't going to fool about wondering whether to put in a little bit of this or a little bit of that. Quite simply, he was going to put in everything he could find. There would be no messing about, no hesitating, no wondering whether a particular thing would knock the old girl sideways or not. The rule would be this: whatever he saw, if it was runny or powdery or gooey, in it went. Nobody had ever made a medicine like that before. If it didn't actually cure Grandma, then it would anyway cause some exciting results. It would be worth watching. George decided to work his way around the various rooms, one at a time, and see what they had to offer. He would first go to the bathroom. There are always lots of funny things in the bathroom, so upstairs he went, carrying the enormous two-handled saucepan before him. In the bathroom, he gazed longingly at the famous and dreaded medicine cupboard. Here's a picture of him going up the stairs and a picture of him in the bathroom. Here it is. And there it is. Oh, it's a bit out of focus on Instagram. But he didn't go near it. It was the only thing in the entire house he was forbidden to touch. He had made solemn promises to his parents about this, and he wasn't going to break them. There were things in there, they had told him, that could actually kill a person. And although he was out to give Grandma a pretty fiery mouthful, he didn't really want a dead body on his hands. George put the saucepan on the floor and went to work. Number 1 was a bottle labelled Golden Gloss Hair Shampoo. He emptied it into the pan. "That ought to wash her tummy nice and clean," he said. He took a full tube of toothpaste and squeezed the whole lot of it in one long worm. "Maybe that will brighten up those horrid brown teeth of hers," he said. There was an aerosol can of superfoam shaving soap belonging to his father. George loved playing with aerosols. He pressed the button and kept his finger on it until there was nothing left. A wonderful mountain of white foam built up in the giant saucepan. With his fingers, he scooped out the contents of a jar of vitamin-enriched face cream. In went a small bottle of scarlet nail varnish. "If the toothpaste doesn't clean her," George said, "then this will paint them as red as roses." He found another jar of creamy stuff labelled hair remover. "Smear it on your legs," it said, "and allow to remain for 5 minutes." George tipped it all into the saucepan. There was a little bottle with yellow stuff inside it called Dishworth's Famous Dandruff Cure. In it went. There was something called Brilladent for cleaning false teeth. It was a white powder. In that went too. He found another aerosol can, Nevermore, Ponking Deodorant Spray. Guaranteed, it said, to keep away unpleasant body smells for a whole day. I need some of that when I do the workout. You could use plenty of that, George said as she sprayed the entire canful into the saucepan. Liquid Paraffin, the next one was called. It was a big bottle. He hadn't the faintest idea what it did to you, but he poured it in anyway. Uh-oh. Do you remember at the beginning of the book it said, "Warning to readers, do not try to make George's marvellous medicine yourselves at home. It could be dangerous." Well, it does sound very dangerous. On his mother's dressing table in the bedroom, George found yet another lovely aerosol can. It was called Helga's Hair Set. Hold 12 inches away from the hair and spray lightly. He squirted the whole lot into the saucepan. He did enjoy squirting these aerosols. It's bad for the environment, George. There was a bottle of perfume called Flowers of Turnips. It smelled of old cheese. In it went, and in too went a large box of powder. It was called Pink Plaster. There was a powder puff on top, and he threw that in as well for luck. He found a couple of lipsticks. He pulled the greasy red things out of their little cases and added them to the mixture. The bedroom had nothing more to offer, so George carried the enormous saucepan downstairs again and trotted into the laundry room, where the shelves were full of all kinds of household items. Here's a picture of George in the laundry room. Katie says it definitely sounds dangerous. She would never want to do that. Me too. The first one he took down was a large box of super white for automatic washing machines. Dirt, it said, will disappear like magic. George didn't know whether Grandma was automatic or not, but she was certainly a dirty old woman. So she better have it all, he said, tipping in the whole box full. Then there was a big tin of Waxwell floor polish. It removes filth and foul messes from your floor and leaves everything shiny bright, it said. George scooped the orange-coloured waxy stuff out of the tin and plonked it into the pan. There was a round cardboard carton labelled flea powder for dogs. Keep well away from the dog's food, it said, because this powder, if eaten, will make the dog explode. Good, said George, pouring it all in the saucepan. He found a box of canary seed on the shelf. Perhaps it will make the old bird sing, he said, and in it went. George explored the box with shoe cleaning materials, brushes and tins and dusters. Well now, he thought, Grandma's medicine is brown, so my medicine should also be brown, or she'll smell a rat. The way to colour it, he decided, would be with brown shoe polish. The large tin he chose was labelled dark tan. Splendid. He scooped it all out with an old spoon and plopped it into the pan. He would stir it up later. On his way back to the kitchen, George saw a bottle of gin standing on the sideboard. Grandma was very fond of gin. She was allowed to have a small nip of it every evening. Now he would give her a treat. He would pour in the whole bottle. He did. Back in the kitchen, George put the huge saucepan on the table and went over to the cupboard that served as a larder. The shelves were bulging with bottles and jars of every sort. He chose the following and emptied them one by one into the saucepan. A tin of curry powder, a tin of mustard powder, a bottle of extra hot chili sauce, a tin of black peppercorns, a bottle of horseradish sauce. There, he said aloud. That should do it. George! Came the screechy voice from the next room. Who are you talking to in there? What are you up to? Nothing, Grandma. Absolutely nothing, he called back. Is it time for my medicine yet? No, Grandma, not for about half an hour. Well, just so you don't forget it. I won't, Grandma, George answered. I promise I won't. Oh my goodness me. I thought he might be done, but it looks like there's more ingredients to go. The next chapter is called Animal Pills. Some horse tranquilizer. At this point, George suddenly had an extra good wheeze. Though the medicine cupboard in the house was forbidden ground, what about the medicines his father kept on the shelf in the shed next to the hen house? The animal medicines. What about those? Remember, they live on a farm. Nobody had ever told him he mustn't touch them. You shouldn't touch them. If you've got animal tablets at home, guys, don't touch them. Let's face it, George said to himself. Hairspray and shaving cream and shoe polish are all very well, and they did no doubt cause some splendid explosions inside the old geezer. But what the magic mixture now needs is a touch of the real stuff, real pills and real tonics to give it a punch and muscle. George picked up the heavy 3/4 full saucepan and carried it out of the back door. He crossed the farmyard and headed straight for the shed alongside the hen house. He knew his father wouldn't be there. He was haymaking in one of the meadows. George entered the dusty old shed and put the saucepan on the bench. Then he looked up at the medicine shelf. There were 5 big bottles there. 2 were full of pills, 2 were full of runny stuff, and 1 was full of powder. I'll use them all, George said. Grandma needs them. Boy, does she need them. The first bottle he took down contained an orange-coloured powder. The label said, for chickens with foul pest, hen gripe, sore beaks, gammy legs, cockroolitis, egg trouble, broodiness, or loss of feathers. Mix 1 spoonful only with each bucket of feed. Here's a picture of George in the animal pill shed, pill house. Well, George said aloud to himself as he tipped in the whole bottle full. The old bird won't be losing any feathers after she's had a dose of this. The next bottle he took down had about 500 gigantic purple pills in it. For horses with a horse throats, it said on the label. The horse-throated horse should suck 1 pill twice a day. Grandma may not have a horse throat, George said, but certainly got a sharp tongue. Maybe they'll cure that instead. Into the saucepan went the 500 gigantic purple pills. I thought he said he didn't want a dead body on his hands. Crikey. Then there was a bottle of thick yellowish liquid for cows, bulls and bullocks. I had to read that one carefully. The label said, will cure cowpox, cow mange, crumpled horns, bad breath in bulls, earache, toothache, headache, hoofache, tailhache, and sore udders. That grumpy old cow in the living room has every one of those rotten illnesses, George said. She'll need it all. With a slop and a gurgle, the yellow liquid splashed into the now nearly full saucepan. The next bottle contained a brilliant red liquid. Sheep dip, it said on the label. For sheep with sheep rot and for getting rid of ticks and fleas. Mix 1 spoonful in gallon of water and slosh it over the sheep. Caution, do not make the mixture any stronger or the wool will fall out and the animal will be naked. By gum, George said. How I'd love to walk and slosh it all over Grandma and watch the ticks and fleas go jumping off her. But I can't. I mustn't. So she'll have to drink it instead. He poured the bright red medicine into the saucepan. The last bottle on the shelf was full of pale green pills. Pig pills, the label announced. 4. Pigs with pork prickles, tender trotters, bristle blight, and swine sickness. Give 1 pill per day. In severe cases, 2 pills may be given, but more than that will make the pig rock and roll. Just the stuff, George said, for that miserable old pig back there in the house. She'll need a very big dose. I don't think I like this George guy. He tipped all the green pills, hundreds and hundreds of them, into the saucepan. Here's a picture. There was an old stick lying on the bench that had been used for stirring paint. George picked it up and started to stir his marvellous concoction. The mixture was as thick as cream, and as he stirred and stirred, many wonderful colours rose up from the depths and blended together, pinks, blues, greens, yellows and browns. George went on stirring until it was all well mixed, but even so, there were still hundreds of pills lying on the bottom that hadn't melted, and there was his mother's splendid powder puff floating on the surface. I shall have to boil it all up, George said. 1 quick good boil on the stove is all it needs. And with that, he staggered back towards the house with the enormous, heavy saucepan. On the way, he passed the garage, so he went in to see if he could find any other interesting things. He added the following: 1/2 pint of engine oil to keep Grandma's engine going smoothly, some antifreeze to keep her radiator from freezing up in the winter, a handful of grease to grease her creaking joints. Then, back to the kitchen. The cook-up. In the kitchen, George put the saucepan on the stove and turned up the gas flame underneath it as high as it would go. "George!" came the awful voice from the next room. "It's time for more medicine!" "Not yet, Grandma," George called back. "There's still 20 minutes before 11 o'clock. "What mischief are you up to in there?" Granny screeched. "I hear noises!" George thought it was best not to answer this one. He found a long wooden spoon in a kitchen drawer and began stirring hard. The stuff in the pot got hotter. Soon the marvellous mixture began to froth and foam. A rich blue smoke, the colour of peacocks, rose from the surface of the liquid, and a fiery, fearsome smell filled the kitchen. Here you go. Here's a picture of the smoke rising, the blue smoke. Like you can see, it's blue. It made George choke and splutter. It was a smell unlike any he had smelled before. It was a brutal and bewitching smell, spicy and staggering, fierce and frenzied, full of wizardry and magic, just like my farts. Whenever he got a whiff of it up his nose, firecrackers went off in his skull and electric prickles ran along the backs of his legs. It was wonderful to stand there stirring this amazing mixture and to watch it smoking blue and bubbling and frothing and foaming as if it were alive. At one point, he could have sworn he saw bright sparks flashing in the swirling foam. Now, there's clearly some funky fumes going on. If you have a look at him here, I think he's been maybe inhaling the fumes a bit too much because he's going a bit wild. Probably ended up going to a rave. And suddenly, George found himself dancing around the steaming pot, chanting strange words that came into his head out of nowhere. It's definitely been inhaling the fumes a bit too much. Fiery broth and witch's blue, foamy froth and rich as blue, fume and spume and spoondrift spray, fizzle swizzle, shout hooray, watch it sloshing, swashing, sploshing, hear it hissing, squishing, spissing, Grandma better start to pray. This is all getting a little bit mad. Alright, we're going to do one more chapter. George turned off the heat under the saucepan. He must leave plenty of time for it to cool down. When all the steam and froth had gone away, he peered into the giant pan to see what colour the great medicine now was. It was a deep and brilliant blue. "It needs more brown in it," George said. "It simply must be brown or she'll get suspicious." He ran outside and dashed into his father's tool shed where all the paints were kept. There was a row of cans on the shelf, all colours, black, green, red, pink, white, and brown. He reached for the can of brown. The label simply said, "Dark brown gloss paint, 1 quart." He took a screwdriver, prized off the lid. The can was 3/4 full. He rushed it back to the kitchen. He poured the whole lot into the saucepan. The saucepan was now full to the brim. Very gently, George stirred the paint into the mixture with the long wooden spoon. Aha! It was turning all brown, a lovely, rich, creamy brown. "Where's that medicine of mine, boy?" came the voice from the living room. "You're forgetting me! You're doing it on purpose! I shall tell your mother!" "I'm not forgetting you, Grandma," George called back. "I'm thinking of you all the time. But there is still 10 minutes to go." "You nasty old little maggot!" the voice screeched back. "You're a lazy and disobedient little worm, and you're growing too fast." George fetched the bottle of Grandma's real medicine from the sideboard. He took out the cork and tipped it all down the sink. He then filled the bottle with his own magical mixture by dipping the small jug into the saucepan and using it as a pourer. He replaced the cork. Had it cooled down enough yet? Not quite. He held the bottle under the cold tap for a couple of minutes. The label came off in the wet, but that didn't matter. He dried the bottle with a dishcloth. All was ready now. This was it. The great moment had arrived. "Medicine time, Grandma," said. He called out. Let's be fair. Maybe a little bit psychotically. "I should hope so, too," called the grumpy reply. The silver tablespoon in which the medicine was always given lay ready on the kitchen sideboard. George picked it up, holding the spoon in one hand and the bottle in the other. He advanced into the living room, and that is where we're going to leave it today. I wonder what will happen when Grandma has her medicine. Ooh-wee! Alright, yeah, so wrestling game tomorrow for a live stream at 3. Quiz on Tuesday, as always. Prepare around if you'd like to become a Quizzard. And we'll be on Zoom for that at 3. Send in your ideas for day 100. We'd love to hear what you think. And I think that's all I've got to say, to be honest. So, Instagram. I'll say goodbye to you now. Hope you all enjoyed the story today. And I'll see you soon. Yeah. And Facebook. It's been real. YouTube. Bye to you. Bye-bye.